This is Radio Romania International. You are listening to our one-hour broadcast in English for listeners in Western Europe and Japan. We can also be heard on the internet at www.rri.ro Channel 1. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and other social media platforms. Our programs are also available on TuneIn and via satellite Eutelsat 16A on 11,512 megahertz, vertical polarization, azimuth 16 degrees east. Symbol rate 29,950 mega symbols per second, standard DVB-S2, modulation 8 PSK, audio PID 510. We wish you good reception conditions. Hello, this is Daniel Beals with the news. The headlines. Serious crimes such as human trafficking, exploitation, sexual assault and torture of children are no longer subject to time limits in Romania under a new law signed by Klaus Iohannis. On July the 1st, Romania entered a new stage of easing restrictions, but the authorities urge citizens to get immunized and warn against a new wave of infections. And the number of COVID-19 infections is on the rise in Europe. Criminal liability for human trafficking and exploitation, sexual assault and torture in children is no longer subject to time limits in Romania under a law signed on Thursday by Romanian President Klaus Iohannis. The act, which amends the criminal code, also increases punishment for failure to report a crime, while also criminalizing the failure to report human trafficking and exploitation and sexual offenses against child victims. In Romania, the National Committee for Emergency Situations on Thursday updated the list of countries and regions with high epidemiological risks. Travelers coming into the country from regions with a combined rate of COVID-19 cases above 3 per thousand in the past 14 days must isolate for 14 days. The UK stays in the red zone alongside 22 other territories, including exotic destinations like the Seychelles and Maldives. The 18 regions in the yellow zone include, among others, the United Arab Emirates, Cyprus, Russia and Portugal. Countries with an infection rate below 1.5 per thousand are on the green list. On July the 1st, Romania entered a new stage of easing restrictions, but the authorities are urging citizens to get immunized and are warning against a new wave of infections. The number of COVID-19 infections are on the rise in Europe. Portugal, which is facing an increasing number of cases of infection with Delta variant, initially discovered in India, decided to impose the night curfew in 45 cities, including in capital city Lisbon. The health ministry in Spain has this week reported the highest daily increase in the infection rate since April, partially because of the Delta variant. 38% of Spain's population has been vaccinated. According to a survey conducted by the Pasteur Institute, France is expecting a fourth wave of the pandemic this autumn, also due to the Delta variant. Romanian-Ukrainian pair Raluca Olaru-Nadia Kichenok on Friday made it to the 8 finals of the women's doubles in the Wimbledon tennis tournament, the year's third Grand Slam competition. The two can meet Romanians Andreea Mitu and Monica Niculescu, provided the latter qualify for the next stage of the competition. In the singles contest, Irina Begu lost in 2 sets, 6-1, 6-0, to Inga Swiatek of Poland in the competition's third round. Sorana Cârsta is the only Romanian in the singles contest and is to take on Emma Raducanu, a British player of Romanian descent, on Saturday. The National Bank of Romania will issue on July the 7th a new silver coin to mark 100 years of diplomatic relations between Romania and Japan, the institution announced in a news release. The obverse of the coin features Karaman Peak in the Butej Mountains, while the reverse features a traditional Japanese gate, Torii, overlapping the image of Mount Fuji reflected in the Kawaguchi Lake. Romania and Germany signed on Thursday in a ceremony at the Mihail Kogalnicianu Air Base 57 on the Romanian Black Sea coast a statement of intent concerning the development of bilateral relations in the field of aviation. In the presence of the Air Force chiefs of the two countries and of the UK, a demonstration was held showcasing the joint fulfillment of an enhanced air policy mission. Taking part in the exercise was aircraft in the MiG-21 Lance R unit, alongside Eurofighter Typhoon aircraft of the British Royal Air Forces and the German Air Forces deployed at the Mihail Kogalnicianu Air Base 57. And now to end the news bulletin, here is a reminder of the main stories. Serious crimes such as human trafficking, exploitation, sexual assault and the torture of children are no longer subject to time limits in Romania under a new law signed by President Klaus Iohannis. On July the 1st, Romania entered a new stage of easing restrictions, but authorities are urging citizens to get immunized and warn against a new wave of infections. And the number of COVID-19 infections across Europe is on the rise. And that was the news from Radio Romania International in Bucharest.
Slavery, human trafficking, sexual assault, torture of children become imprescriptible crimes in Romania. I'm Natalia Rasimian with more in this commentary by Bogdan Matei. The COVID-19 pandemic has generated the ideal circumstances for human trafficking to develop globally. Governments have channeled their resources on the health crisis, and human traffickers have taken advantage of the most vulnerable persons, shows an annual report of the U.S. State Department that looks into the human trafficking situations from 188 countries of the world. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken estimates that 25 million people, including minors, are victims of this type of trafficking, which includes prostitution and forced labor. There are lots of examples from all over the world. In India and Nepal, young girls from poor rural areas have been forced to marry to help their families. In the United States, the United Kingdom, and Uruguay, there were landlords who forced their tenants unable to pay their rent to have sexual relations with them. For the first time for a NATO member country, Turkey has been accused of having recruited and used child soldiers in Syria and Libya. 11 countries are accused of directly trafficking people: Afghanistan, Myanmar, China, Cuba, Eritrea, North Korea, Iran, Russia, South Sudan, Syria, and Turkmenistan. Governments should protect and serve their citizens, not terrorize and subjugate them for profit, said Anthony Blinken. A member of the European Union, Romania is not immune to similar horrors. In 2018, 14 individuals from Berevoiești-Argeș in the south of Romania received prison sentences between 4 and 18 years because they had literally reduced to slavery 40 young people and children. Cases of child sexual abuse, forced prostitution, torture frequently go to court and make the headlines on news TV stations. On Thursday, the Romanian President Klaus Iohannis promulgated the law amending the criminal code, according to which the criminal liability of aggressors will not be prescribed in the case of crimes of slavery, human trafficking, sexual assault, and torture of children. The law also provides for increasing punishments in case of failure to report the respective crimes. The law also stipulates an increase by 1/3 of the special length of sentences in cases of child pornography perpetrated by a person who had previously committed a crime against the freedom and sexual integrity of a child pornography crime, or the crime of pimping the child, or if the offense endangered the child's life. Also this week, the Romanian police made operational the Digital National Register, including individuals who have committed sexual crimes, have exploited people or children. According to the authorities, this register provides information on and allows for the supervision and rapid identification of persons involved in the trafficking and exploitation of vulnerable persons in crimes against one's sexual freedom and integrity. You have been listening to Radio Newsreel on Radio Romania International.
Next in this program, sports. Welcome to Sports Weekend. I'm Eugen Nasta. Romanian tennis player Sorana Cârstea this past Thursday got through to the third round at Wimbledon. In the second round, Cârstea grabbed a 7-6, 3-6, 6-4 win against Victoria Azarenka. It was Sorana Cârstea's first win in a confrontation against the challenger from Belarus, who is 12th seeded at Wimbledon. Azarenka played the semis at Wimbledon in 2011 and 2012. In the match against Cârstea, Victoria Azarenka succeeded a break and the score was 5-all. In the first set, Azarenka conceded her serve when she had the win in her hands, but Cârstea came from behind and won a break and went on to secure a 7-5 win in the tiebreak. Azarenka reigned supreme in the second set, taking an early 3-0 lead and then winning 6-3. In the third set, Azarenka also had a 2-0 lead and a 3-0 advantage respectively, but Cârstea won 4 games in a row, succeeding a 5-3 advantage. Cârstea wasted 2 match points, also losing a point when it was her turn to serve. The scoreline pointed to a 5-4 advantage for the Romanian, so Azarenka was getting closer to leveling the score. However, Cârstea secured the win of the 3-set tussle against Victoria Azarenka with a break. In the third round, Sorana Cârstea goes against the Romanian-born British opponent, Emma Raducanu, who provided a great surprise with her straight set win against Czech opponent Marketa Vondrushova, 6-2, 6-4. Rower Madalina Beres and swimmer Robert Glință will be the Romanian delegation's flag bearers at the Tokyo Olympics, according to the Romanian Olympic and Sports Committee. 6-time European champion Madalina Beres is a bronze medalist at the Rio Olympics in 2016 and a world champion with Romania's Coxed 8 crew. Robert Glință is the first Romanian swimmer to have been able to win a gold medal in the European Championships. Robert was also the first Romanian athlete to have secured his participation in the Tokyo Olympics. In news from rugby, this coming Saturday, Romania is pitted against Argentina in a test match. We recall that the two teams last met in Bucharest in 1992, when Argentina were the winners 21-18. And that's all from Sports Weekend. You can also access all sports items at RRI.O and on Facebook.
Time now for Hit of the Day on Radio Romania International. Listen now to the latest song by the Romanian rock band Holograph, The Beat of Your Heart.
You are listening to Radio Romania International.